Hello and welcome, Diana J, to my very first podcast. This is to be, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Say the aim for this is to help authors get through their mindset and any challenges that they're facing at the moment. So without further ado, I'll go straight into it. So what's your biggest challenge you've got at the moment?
As an author?
Yes.
Where do I start? Well, I guess I think I've nailed it down. What I have been having difficulty with is I'm writing a book, and it has kind of a lot of themes.
Yeah.
And it's about me, which of course makes it hard. If I'm writing about something that's just like research oriented, that's pretty easy. But what I'm writing about is, I guess, overcoming fear, finding joy. It's going to be called Connections. Okay. But I discovered all this through, going on a trip, realizing that I was super joyful, not realizing that, I'm always a happy person, but on this trip I was joyful. So when I went home, I decided I wanted more of that in my life. So I decided to have a year of yes, which led to a year of travel, like packing up, living out of a suitcase for 1 year in different cities around the world when I'm totally inexperienced and have like no idea what I'm doing. So that's kind of what the book is about, just to inspire people to, live their best life, do stuff they're scared of, because like it's super amazing and always easier than you think it is. So that's a lot of different themes to put into a book. And so I was having trouble writing it, for one. And my recent problem has been, I'm having trouble writing this book. I've started it 3 times. Do I, especially with the COVID crisis right now, just like pick a topic and talk about working remotely and digitally, which is what I was doing around the world, and just get that book out? Even though I could do it, but it's not really the book that I want to write, but it's timely. And so I had decided to do that last week when I was talking with you. But then when I sat down to start writing, I'm like, that's not really my passion about the book. The main thing is not about being a digital nomad. It's about overcoming the fear and doing what you want and finding connection with people, which is also timely. So I'm back to trying to write the book for the 3rd time. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for me, I battle. If I'm going to write a book, it has to set my soul on fire. It has to be something that I'm really passionate about, because that'll be the fuel that drives me and writes my book. It needs to be a need for me. If that makes sense. And if you've got something that actually sort of like, I can write it, but I don't find the joy in it, then you're going to find it very difficult, and you end up actually fighting yourself to actually write the book, which becomes, counterproductive. For me, obviously, if you're looking to write the other book, if you do enjoy doing it, then I would do it. And again, one of the battles that you will have, and something that I had in my first 2 books in particular, is that you're rehashing old challenges you had in the past, and you're bringing about those old feelings. So it's important to acknowledge them. It's important to perhaps manage them and deal with them the best way you can, because it brings you back. And there's something that Brené Brown talks about when people are being vulnerable and open. It's called a vulnerability hangover. I don't know whether you heard it before. And it actually is the thing, yeah. So if you're being open and honest about things and what's going on, it actually takes a lot of energy out of you, and you feel quite sort of like knocked out for a little while. So it's key to be quite understanding to start off with. My first book took me, 14, 16 months to write. And it was really painful to start off with, if I'm honest, and for quite a bit of it, because I brought myself back to 5 years ago when I had the armed robbery. So just be understanding. If there's tools and skills that you've got, which I think you have, then I would utilize them and just sort of like go back to that and just be understanding yourself, because you are going through those emotions again. It may be days where you don't get to write, but if this is something that you love and this is what you want to impart on people, then my recommendation would be leave the coronavirus one to one side. You can do that later, or do what you love. And once you get into it, this is the thing. Once you get over that hurdle, once you get into it, it honestly, the fuel just drives you, and you love it. And to feel happy and feel that joy for an hour or how long it is that you do it, it's just amazing, and it drives me. So that's what I would do.
Great advice. Yeah, I think, well, I will follow it, definitely. Did you also go through this? I'm a former broadcaster, and I write well. I used to do the news, and so I mean that's my communication is I'm good at it, I think, and I'm great about talking about all these things. And so after trying to write twice, I decided this last time I would just dictate.
Yeah, fair enough.
In my natural voice, and then put it down there, and then go back.
Yeah.
Which is easier to do. But then, did you worry about? I kind of read it over, and I think, oh, it's shit.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. One of the things I do recommend with authors when you're writing, especially your first book, is don't worry. Just write it. Just let it all out. It is just setting your direction and setting it out. You know, a lot of people, especially, a lot of authors say themselves, it's a hot mess. Your first writing is a hot mess. So just be understanding, it's just putting it down into words. That's it. And then you can go back and fix it. If there's anything not quite right with it, your self-edit phase is when you need to look at improving it. So honestly, just write it.
Like but maybe that's what your editor is for, right? To help you with that?
Yeah. Your self-edits, you can go through things. So if you're writing stuff and you go, do you know what? I'm not happy with that chapter, or this part here just doesn't work for me whatsoever. That's not a problem. Just write a little note on it. This is what I do. Write a little note on it. Needs improvement, needs a bit more inspiration, needs a little bit more on there, and just go back to it. You've got well within your right to go back and check it. But yeah, that's what I do. Just write the book, or talk it how you're doing it. Again, this is a great thing to do. Just talk it and then go back and go, right, okay, and then start editing it and self-editing. And then once you've done self-editing, the editor will look at it too. You've got loads of options, loads of process to change and improve it if you need to. So don't worry, just get it out. That's the best thing I would advise you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So okay, so what do you find is your you say you talked about challenge, but what would you find is what's exhausting you the most? Is it sort of like doubt, or is it just the fact that you're rehashing the emotions that you had in the past? What do you find is the biggest sort of hurdle with actually enjoying writing?
I like it. I just when I go back to read it, I mean, I'm not really my forte. I don't think is like storytelling, right? I'm more of a factual documentarian type of person rather than storytelling. So when I read it, I'm like, ugh, it's not very, I don't know. But maybe that's just my own insecurity, right? So I guess we'll find out. I think the main thing is time.
When I was writing my books, and I still do, especially the first one, I felt that my dog could do a better job because I read it back, and you get so emotionally entrenched into
Lost you. Shit.